Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Boss Talks. It's your favorite podcast. We know. So because it's your favorite podcast, share it. That's the fee. Kristine and I do this. We spend a lot of time, money, energy learning this stuff, learning from the best, and we try this stuff that we're listening to, that you're listening to. We've read the book that we're talking about today, and if you've been listening for the last, I don't know, what are we up to? 10 episodes in this this special? Oh, all right. Well, whatever it is, Kristine's sign languaging me on the video. But listen, I know this is valuable stuff. This is probably one of the best books I've ever read, and no matter whether you like Napoleon Hill, personal development, any of that stuff, I can see that the successful people on the planet apply this stuff that's in this book. So this is really just one of the Bibles to success. So the fact that we're condensing the chapters for you, look, do us a favor, share it. And today we are talking about cooperation. And I can tell you honestly that back in the days when I started a business, I thought I had to do everything myself. And I don't know how I didn't burn myself out. And I guess I did. It just took a while, or maybe I didn't notice it. But it wasn't until I learned how to build a team, and I'm thinking 20 years later, I'm still learning how to be more cooperative with team members, and even inside my own head, because you can have conflict and competition. Gee whiz. You can have competition in your own mind, different things getting said in your mind. You can, you can't, like, I really want this goal, and no, you can't have it. You're not good enough. You got all these things in your head. So externally, anything that's been built on planet Earth that's been amazing has come from cooperation. And for that to happen, you've got to have cooperation in your own mind. So you got to, like, when we talking about this book, we're talking about the power of a mastermind. We Kristine and some other people that are our friends jumped in, did this book, cooperated by jumping on each week or every fortnight actually, and discussing what we believed and what it meant to us, each chapter. And I grew exponentially, and it was because of that cooperation that I was able to do that. Otherwise, I just would have had what was in my mind. So you want to get more knowledge, you want more money, you want better relationships, you want all the amazing things that planet Earth and the universe has in store for you, you probably want to learn about cooperation. So Kristine, I know you love this chapter, and I know you're actually what I would say is a master. You have this uncanny ability to, scoop up groups of people and get them all cooperating and doing amazing things. And I guess it's part of what you've learned in your business, and even in multiple businesses that you've had. But every time I see you on social media, and if you aren't following Kristine on social media, you better go do it, because you're going to see basically a timeline of how to be successful at cooperation. So Kristine, what do you reckon?
Awesome. Thanks, Joel. And while you were talking then, I was just looking up a statistic about how many people actually finish reading a book that they've started, and it's only 37%, only 37% of people. And I think that's quite generous. So we created a mastermind.
What about the fact that, was it you that told me the statistic of how many books get read by people per year? Like, it's like not even one. Most people don't even read one book a year. And like, I know if you're listening to the podcast, you're not most people. And if you are, we're trying to show the way to not be like most people. But was it you that told me that? Like,
That wasn't me. No.
Oh, quickly, better look up the statistic.
But it makes sense though, doesn't it? Because I know quite a few people that I, recommend books, and they instantly give me the one-liner of, oh, I don't read books. I can't remember the last time I read a book. I'm just like, what are you fueling your mind with? Come on, people. We need books, okay? We definitely need books. And they've made it really easy. Like, you can listen to books, but I'm a visual person, so I love to read. Sometimes I'll double up and I'll get the book in audio as well as the physical book, because I just love taking notes. Like, if you are on watching this, like, you'll see all my tabs, and I've highlighted all throughout the book. So I love that. That people are going to cringe at that, Joel, by the way. Some people are going to hear me say that I write and highlight all through my book.
I'm
that
one of
used
them.
to be. Yeah, you one of them?
Yeah, I can't write in my book, so I have to take notes separately, and I put like page 137. Look at that book, yeah. But yeah, I hear ya. It's funny what you said there. Like, oh goodness me!
Even
Oh my god!
highlighter colors on that page, Joel.
Oh, it's like the colors of the rainbow. But you know what's funny? Like, what are people feeding their mind if they're not reading books or they're not listening to audibles? Like when I exercise, I guess 90% of the time I'm either listening to a podcast or something educational. Like, I guess it's like the news or Netflix or something. I don't know. What else would they be doing? Oh, phone, social media.
Yeah, probably social media. Yeah, it's a good point, and we're hoping that by you listening to this podcast today, that we're going to challenge a few of your thought processes, as we love to do. And what we tell you, it's not right, it's not wrong. Maybe it's just different, And we want you to listen to our podcast with an open mind, take in the information, try some of the things we speak about, and if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then try something else. Like, we're all on this self-evolution journey, and there's no finish line. You're not going to get to a destination, go, yep, I'm finally the person I want to be, and you can, hang up the boots. No, if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you want to get better. We all want to get better. And through this chapter of cooperation, we're going to give you some tips and techniques on how to do that. And Joel sort of mentioned at the start, like, you can't do it alone. Like, as independent as a lot of you are, and I've been the same, it's so hard to make it alone. Like, you need cooperation. You need a team of people around you to help you succeed. And that's how you're going to get further faster as well. So in this book, excuse me, he talks about cooperation, firstly, between people, like a group that group themselves together to form alliances or a mastermind. And the second one is cooperation between the conscious and the subconscious minds. And I'm going to bring you in here, Joel, because he talks about the nervous system, and he talks about physical health, which, we love to talk about as well. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I believe that you got to have them all working at the same time. Like, like, when I'm on fire, it's when I've been out exercising regularly, and I've been eating better foods, and I've been feeding my mind better foods, and I've been hanging around with inspiring, amazing people. It's all that kind of stuff. And I guess for me, that's where the cooperation really comes in. Those things cooperate to create results. So if you start subtracting any of them out, and I'll readily admit, like, from time to time, I've let what I feed my body, go down. And when or I've stopped exercising because I've been focused on something else. And it's like, obviously I really want that something else to go really well, but I'm not giving it my best because I've thrown all that stuff out the window. And I know that I would be miles further ahead right now had I hadn't put my health on the shelf to get the money back when I had my financial disaster. Had I stayed, and I still remember thinking, yeah, I'm really fit. Like, I can take 3 months to get focused on this and I'll be able to just pick it back up. And years later, like something else, like, hey, it's just like 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Well, I fattened the curve. You know, I got unhealthy and it's not pleasant. So I can only implore you, like, to, if you're listening to this and you're thinking that it's challenging, well, how bad do you really want your goals? How bad do you really want them? And if you really want them, you know, like Kristine, I follow people that are doing well. I don't have to like them. Like, I don't have to necessarily agree with everything they say. Like, another person that people may or may not have heard of, he's probably a bit much for some people, is Sean Whalen. Now, he's not perfect. He says some pretty crazy stuff. Like, he's like, but at what he turned his whole life around from a disaster, from just core 4. Like, he calls it, that's his strategy, core 4. And, you know, it's basically mind, body, soul, spirit, relationships. You know, like, I know that's 5, but mind and body, spirit's part of the mind, health and relationships. And he didn't try to do it on his own. He destroyed a multi-million dollar business. Like, it was like, we're talking 10s, 20s, 30s, millions of dollars. He just ran it into the ground. He walked away from it, if you read his book, because it was such a disaster. His marriage became a disaster. All this became a disaster because he wouldn't admit that he needed help. And he says it in his book. And then he just followed the core 4, which is just practically what we said then. And in cooperation, those things created him the life he's got now, which is crazy. Like, the guys, the latest thing to Kristine, you're going to laugh. He wants a tank. He literally wants a tank on his ranch so he can drive around like he's just a big boy.
Like an army tank.
Like a literal armored tank that probably shoots, knowing him. I don't know. Like, he's like the typical, I'm not going to say redneck, but, you know, like the I don't even know, the cow tipping Texan kind of person that, yeah, is out there. But yeah.
That's one goal I've never heard before.
Huh?
That's one goal I've never heard before.
Well, he's out looking for a jet. He can't get a jet yet, probably. I don't know, maybe he can, but, you know, who knows? But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, his life got better when he got those 4 things to work in cooperation. He did the 75 hard, Kristine, which really just wraps all the things that you need into one nice little bow, and it's even on an app. I highly recommend it. So I don't know, like, I don't want to ramble, but it's like, it's important. I think you can do it, but I don't think you'll hit your peak if you're not looking after all sections.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that the author's put in this book at the start of this chapter, it says, "You have failed many times, ? How fortunate. You ought to know by now some of the things not to do." And I really love that, because so many people, you know, they stop at failure. They don't give things another go. And that makes me really sad. Excuse me. So what I wanted to bring up in this chapter, what I really loved, was he gave us a formula of how to stay in that peak physical condition. Because you're right, Joel, if you're not aligned, body, mind, spirit, and your physicality, and, you know, I've just completed my yoga instructor course as well, and they talk about, you know, the koshas and, you know, the physical component of the body. They talk about the energy body. They talk about the mental body, the wisdom body, that body of knowing, and then the bliss body. And it's all these layers that we kind of get to go through. And then obviously bliss is the enlightenment. It's the awakening, right? And that's what people are striving for. But what I see out there is a lot of people don't know that exists. You know, they've never experienced it. So you have to start with the physical body I believe, and it goes hand in hand. You know, like from a personal training perspective, like I need a strong mind to have a strong body, but it goes the other way around. I need to have a strong body to have a strong mind. Like they just go hand in hand, those two things. So the physical, the energy body, and the mental body are really closely related. But you have to start with the physical, because if you're not feeling physically amazing, it's going to be really hard for your systems to work properly. Your nervous system, you know, your digestive system, your respiratory system, your cardiovascular system. And these are all the systems that you need to thrive in life, that are going to give you the energy, the vitality, the health that you need to be the best version of yourself, to make the best decisions, to reduce stress, to keep anxiety and depression at bay, you know, to have enriched relationships, you know, to feel more alive and more inspired every single day. So in the book, he basically gives us his formula on how he maintains his physical peak. And I want to share it with you, because you've heard Joel's before, you've heard mine before. And it's most of what we do is in alignment with what he gives us. So he basically drinks a cup of hot water when he first gets up in the morning before he has breakfast. So many health benefits to that. Some people might say, oh, it's better having a glass of, you know, room temperature water or with lemon or whatever. Do what works for you, do what makes sense to you. But this guy has hot water. Then he has breakfast, and he has rolled oats for breakfast. He'll also have some fruit, some soft-boiled eggs, and his coffee. And then for his lunch, he'll have vegetables, a good range. And then he'll have whole wheat bread or some buttermilk. And then he'll have a steak maybe once a week, and then vegetables, lettuce, and he says that he has another coffee as well. So that's basically his formula that he sticks to. And then the third thing that he's got in here is that he moves his body. He walks about 10 miles a day. And he uses it as a period of meditation and thought. So he's not listening to anything. He's basically out in nature, walking, and getting in tune, I guess. And then he does this thing where he lies across straight across the bottom of a chair with his legs up, flat on his back. And he gives the nervous energy of his body the opportunity to balance properly and distribute itself. And after about 10 minutes, he relieves himself of all signs of fatigue, no matter how tired he is. Then the fifth thing he does is he takes an enema each week. I had to go and look that up, what that was. But it definitely gets things moving in the body. And then the sixth thing is he takes a hot shower followed by a cold shower every day. And you've heard us bang on about that as well. So that's his formula to staying in peak physical condition, so that he aligns his physical body with his energy body, with his mental body, with his mind. And then that then leads to a level of awareness, I guess, where he can then start to fuel his body, fuel his mind with the right things that are going to help him grow, that are going to help him expand as a human being, which will then lead to that enlightenment that I spoke about, that level of bliss. So is this making sense, Joel?
It's making total sense. And like, I can sort of back this up because I've followed Gary Vee since before he was cool. I mean, back in the day, and he used to be, I don't think he was ever like fat, but he wasn't as healthy and as, health focused as he is now. And he has literally exploded his business to the point that it's crazy. You know what I mean? And he did that after he got his health in order. I can look at Ed Milet. His health is in order. Andy Frisella has just created a juggernaut in the last 4 to 5 years since he's really taken a look at his health, and the list goes on. Like, love him or hate him, Grant Cardone. He's 60 something and he's fitter than most 40-year-olds. Like, you just got to look at the guy, like Sean Whalen, once again, they've all got their health in order. And I'm sure I'm sharing the masculine, but I see Andy's wife, Elena Cardone, I don't, there's plenty of women out there that would have done exactly the same thing, because the reason why they've done it, and they've mentioned it, and you can go search for where they've said this, is they knew that they weren't playing at their best. They were too foggy to play the game of business. So you think about it. Would you think that you're going out to, I don't know, the Australian Open or the US Open to play in the final against Djokovic or Federer or someone in there, and would you go out and eat 10 donuts and drink alcohol the night before and not sleep and come in with a hangover and expect to be able to go toe-to-toe with some guy who's literally doing everything correct? Like, would you expect to beat Usain Bolt and that level of people if you just, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to, it just comes back to something that I'm saying quite often now. You got to respect your competition. These like, that competition out there is spending copious amounts of time working on their business, working on themselves, and that takes energy. And if you've only got 10 points of energy and they've got 32 points of energy, just because they've got their mind, body, spirit, and themselves, like all their systems working in cooperation, they're going to kick your ass every day. They could half-ass it and still beat you. So that's the proof in the pudding. If it wasn't important, all these people would be getting fatter. All these people would be, not filling their mind with the right stuff. All these people would be doing probably what most people are doing. I don't see, when you see these interviews, you don't see Elon Musk going, oh, well, the way to, go to Mars is to binge watch 14 seasons of a show on Netflix. That's what I do. And yet so many people out there think they're going to have his success. Like, are you kidding me? So I guess that's the health part, Kristine. And I was thinking I'd share how, like, a specific thing for the people that want to have an example of how I've done it in the past and how I've done it differently when it comes to business. So in the past, as you know, I've had supermarkets, I've had multiple businesses, but the one that I really cut my teeth on and he was in the trenches with was supermarkets. And as I said before, like, I used to do everything myself that I could physically do because I was thinking, well, I don't know what I was thinking. I was young and I didn't know what I was doing. Okay. And when I got older and I bought another IGA, and this is years later, after I'd learned to build my team, and I was going into a fresh supermarket to take it over. The day that we were changing hands, Kristine, I had my team standing at the front waiting to go in as well. They'd all been prepped with what they had to do when they walked in. So I had for this store, it wasn't a gigantic store, but I had a floor and general manager. I had a bookkeeper that had already a relationship with my accountant. I had a stock controller and, a couple of other things, but they all knew, what they had to do. Now, because of that store, so the old me was working like 80, 90, 100 plus hours a week because I was very bad at cooperation. That guy went to that store probably half an hour every month just because I felt bad. Because the team was so good at what they did, I would just slow things down. Now, had I not learned how to bring people into the jolly spirit of cooperation, I could never have done that. So while I was owning that business, I was able to go to America. I'd never traveled before. I had, so just to give you an idea, like, I didn't know how to cooperate, and I was trapped in my business. I learned cooperation and I had freedom. Now, it's not just as simple as flicking a switch, but what I'd like to implore and get you guys really thinking and shake you up and wake you up is that wouldn't you think that learning how to cooperate would be worth it if in my life it took me from being trapped to freedom, and I guess as Kristine knows, I'm currently building another business. I'm not looking about how I can go in and do it all myself. I need to know how to do most things myself so I can speak to the staff and partners that are doing those jobs and doing those tasks and part of the team. I need to be able to speak to them, but I'm not going to do it. Does that make sense? Like I'm already piecing the pieces. They're going, what do I need? How do I get my team to cooperate so we can go for the bigger goal? And and that's the important thing. I need to have a big vision that they can all buy into. And I have to as a leader know what they actually want. Some people don't want money. Some people want freedom to pick their kids up from childcare if something goes wrong. Some people want an extra week off a year. Some people want to be able to buy shares in the company. Some people want to be able to work from home. So if I can find out how the business can actually give them what they want, no, we're no longer talking about going and getting sales. We're talking about hey, you're still interested in buying that cool car? Are you still interested in buying that first house? How can I help you do that? And that's me. Kristine, has that made sense? Did I lose people there? No,
it makes total sense. And one of the lines in this chapter is what the world really pays you for is what you do or what you can get others to do. So that's exactly what you've done. And I love how you, you set them up and you already had a vision for what you wanted them to do. They had a vision for what needed to be done. And then as that store opened, everyone went in there into their positions and worked as a team in their individual sections. So I love that. I think it's great. And this chapter is all about action. That's what cooperation is. It's about taking action. And sometimes you have to do the most distasteful tasks first. Excuse me. There's going to be things in your business that you don't love to do, but you're going to have to do them. You're going to have to show up and take action in those areas anyway. So he says here that this procedure will be difficult at first, but after you form the habit, you'll take pride in pitching into the hardest and most undesirable part of your work first, getting that most difficult part out of the way. And then the second thing is place this sign in front of you wherever you can see it. Do not tell them what you can do, show them. Like people don't care what you do. They care why you do it. So show them what you're doing, make your success be the noise, make your action speak louder than your words. You've heard all that before. And then the third thing he says here is repeat these words. Tomorrow I will do everything that should be done, when it should be done, as it should be done. I will perform the most difficult task first because this will destroy the habit of procrastination and develop the habit of action in its place. And I love that. How many of us procrastinate, which then leads to paralysis, and we don't get anything done. And we look back at the end of the day and think, oh my gosh, I just got nothing done. Like I've definitely been there. And then the last step he says here is carry out these instructions. So those first 3 steps with faith that their soundness and with belief that they will develop action in the body and mind sufficient to enable you to realize your definite chief aim. And Joel and I were talking off air before this podcast, because later in this chapter, he talks about your standing army, your army of 15, which is the laws of success. So we were trying to think, if people could just master just one at a time and just work your way through, where would we recommend people get started? And we both agreed it's got to be the definite chief aim. There's so many people out there that don't know what they want in life. They've stopped dreaming. They're caught up in the rat race, in the monotony of life. And he talks about, there's two types of people in the world. There's the dreamers that will just dream and that'll be it. They'll do nothing more. And then there's the dreamers and the visionaries that will actually take the action to make those dreams become a reality. So we're asking our listeners today, which side of the fence are you on? Are you just simply dreaming, or are you actually going to turn those dreams into reality? So Joel, let's talk about the standing army, I guess. I'm going to bring you in here.
Yeah, I want to like, just before we jump into that, like, I'm curious. I think society today actually spends a lot of its time making us feel bad for wanting more. And if that's you listening right now, like, it's time to just ignore it. There was something you wanted when you were a little kid, and there's something that you want when you're a bigger kid. If like, I would like to own a jet. And I can tell you from personal experience, that's not something that I feel like super comfortable admitting that that's what I want, because that has connotations towards it. Like, what, and this is stuff we've gone over in the past on other episodes. But, like, if you don't start admitting what you want and getting around a crowd that will say, hell yeah, to that kind of stuff, you're going to be living in the same house, the same town, with the same size bank account, the same cars, with the same friends, with the same experiences for the rest of your life. If you don't break, and I get it, it's challenging. Society doesn't, like, they want you to think small. They want you to think that it's greedy to want more. They want you to think it's, you're a bad person. How much do you want? Like, how much is it? When's enough enough? Well, then what the hell did the universe create all this cool stuff, all this experience for? Just to, like, put it in front of your face and say, you're not special enough to have this? Don't let that happen. And it happens to all of us. I can guarantee you, even without asking Kristine, I bet you there's a part of her at times where she's felt bad for wanting heaps more, because, what will people think? Like, but we've got to, like, band together. We've got to build this Boss Talks community where it's okay to want more. Like, maybe you don't want a jet. Maybe you don't want a big house on the Gold Coast. Maybe you want something else. Maybe you just want to be a fantastic mum. Maybe you want to break the cycle of poverty in your family. Maybe you don't believe in welfare, and that's what your family believes in. There's something, maybe you don't want to believe the narrative that the media is sending you. Maybe you do. Just stand up and say what you want, because I know deep down you know what you want. You're just probably frightened to say what you want. So there's a rant, Kristine, but I believe in it.
Yeah, I love that, mate. And I love how he talks about power in this chapter as well, because he talks about how power comes from organized effort. And when we talk about those 15 laws, or those 15 soldiers, as he's got in this picture here, and how important that definite chief aim is, he basically says, like, if you're a normal person, then you long for material success. You want material things. And success and power are always found together. You cannot be sure of success unless you have power. You cannot have power unless you develop it through the 15 essential qualities. And, we're up to number 12. So we've got 3 to go after this. But the most important of the 15, and he agrees, is the definite purpose. Like, why are you here? What do you want to do with your life? And we're not saying, for those that are listening that are in jobs that don't want to grow, don't want to evolve, don't want to be entrepreneurial, don't want to, improve, we're not saying that's right or wrong. But what is you playing small saying to the people around you? And are you holding other people back in life because you're choosing to play small? See, we all think that we're separate, and we're not. We're all connected. We're all vibrating at different energy frequencies. And for me, I honestly believe that one of the greatest gifts I can give my kids is for me to pursue my dreams, because I'm going to give permission for them to pursue theirs, whatever their dreams are when they're older. You know, my son talks about having, he's only 4, he talks about having a green Lamborghini, you know, and yesterday he was talking about, you know, I wish we had more money so we could get that green Lamborghini. And I was like, mate, you can't even drive a car yet, you know. But he's got a toy green Lamborghini in the house, like just a little toy one, to remind him of that dream every day. I don't want to beat that dream out of him. If he wants a green Lamborghini, go for it, you know. So for me, Joel, you know, having that definite chief aim, like there's one line in this book that I really love, and it's, nothing is impossible to the person who knows what it is he wants and makes up in his mind to acquire it. I truly believe that. And that's what we want for our listeners. We want you to believe that you can have whatever it is that you want in life, and you are good enough and you are worthy of it. And yes, we all have stinking thinking around money, and we've got different beliefs that have been handed down from generation to generation that aren't even ours, that are holding us back in life. But what if you could? What if you could even achieve a quarter of the things that you want in life? What would that look like? So that's it, I guess, from me, Joel. I just really want to make sure that people are feeling that inner belief, are feeling inspired to take some sort of action from this call today. So
exactly. Yeah, well, I guess to close it out, some people might be sitting there, you know, maybe new listeners, because the diehards know what we're about, and thinking, hey, it's all right for you two, or it's all right, you don't know my story. You don't know that my parents didn't teach me this. I didn't come from a rich family. I didn't do that. And you know what? It's probably time to stop blaming them. You know, if you're listening to this, I don't think you're still living at home. Maybe you are, but if you're listening to it, you're probably not going to be at home for much longer, you know. You got to stop blaming other people. It's not, and it says, it's from this book. It says, it's not your education, but to the extent that you apply the knowledge with action. So none of this is worth anything. Like our 80, this will be 83 episodes of our podcast, or 82 or something. I've got my guy doing it. My son hooks these up for us, so he knows what number we're up to. But it's not going to be worth anything unless you take action. You know, you can read so many books and not apply them. You know, and if you read a lot of books, or you listen to a lot of podcasts, or you watch a lot of content, like, are you really learning for accumulation, or are you learning for application? Because maybe you don't need to read 1,000 books. Maybe you need to read one book 1,000 times and just go bloody apply it. Because the truth is, you're going to learn more in action, and you're going to see things in motion that you can't see standing still. If you don't take the action to go out and shake hands and be in cooperation with other people, you're just not going to make it. You're just going to be sitting here in 10, 15, 20 years, or whatever it is, and wishing that you'd had a go. You know what I mean? I guess, Kristine, I said it on my stories yesterday. Like, I had a financial disaster. It led to me going to a Tony Robbins event. And had I known what Tony Robbins was about, you would never have got me there. I had no idea what I was in for. It was like a rock concert. I've said it in the past. I learned two things stick to me to this day that turned my life around. So out of all that time, God, how many hours? 4 days of insane hours. Two things turned my life around. And then I went to the next event where I met someone who allowed me, talk to me about a network marketing company. and I joined a network marketing company, and there's lots of people that have opinions about network marketing companies, and I don't even talk to this person anymore. So I have not spoken to the person that got me into the network marketing company for years. And that's okay. But I met her upline, and this woman has a husband who I met, who became a client. And that person introduced me to another client, and I worked with this person. So like, look at the separation. I would never have got to this person had I not gone to and met people at a crazy, ridiculous event, you know? And this person I worked with, and I helped them build a tremendous business. It's one of the things I do was consulting for businesses. And what he has gone on and has far more education in marketing than I do, which now, funnily enough, in my new business that I'm beginning, he actually has the skills to actually help me blow this thing up. And this thing may or may not be crazy. It may or may not happen. But don't you think it's crazy that the fact that I took the action, met people, you know, took a risk on something that people can say pyramid scheme and all this crap and whatever they want to believe. I don't give a shit. Like, it's the people I met. And I wouldn't be, like, literally, you and I would not be on this podcast had it not been for me going to Tony Robbins, because that's how we met too. So, and it came from a disaster. So I don't know what else to say, like, other than get off your ass. Don't, like, the government's not going to save you. No one's going to come save you. Don't just listen to this and get all motivated and share it just because you want a high five from us. Share it so people will listen to it, so you can help create a community that you can be part of, and go take the action. Read the damn book. Start your own podcast about the book. If you ever wanted to start a podcast, read the book and talk about it. I don't know. Kristine, I'm going to go buy some more mics because I don't know what else to say. Like,
no, you've said it all, mate. And you're so right. Like, people just have to take the action. Just have the cooperation. Like, honestly, if you haven't read this book after us talking about it 12 lessons in, please go and get it, because you will be blown away by the content. You'll be blown away by how your thoughts are challenged by every single lesson. And he gives you the formula in every chapter of what to go away and implement. And it's that speed of implementation that I think is really key. Because how many of us read a book or go to a Tony Robbins event and we don't implement what we actually learn? And then we become a self-development junkie. Don't do that. So that's it from us. We will be back next podcast. We're talking about failure. Oh, lesson 13, failure. That's a big lesson, actually. So that could be a long podcast. Who knows? But we want to say thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you got something out of today's podcast, and we will see you on the next call.
Damn. Yeah.